Hey everybody, what's going on? How you doing? Welcome to another edition of Extra Point Live. We're just kind of getting settled in here. I was out at Waldwick Western, and we started almost an hour late because Midland couldn't get there. And I'm sure they wish Midland just stayed home. But I'm going to say something.
It's kind of been emblematic of what we've seen from that team the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say one thing, and I don't do this because we're a live podcast. I would never do this, but I'm going to do it. Holy shit, it was cold. Cold isn't even the word for what I experienced tonight, and I'm sure all of us who were on sidelines. It was insane.
You know, the wind made it worse.
That was the absolute worst. It was funny. We sat down just a couple minutes ago. Literally, we're just starting. We all just kind of got in the last few minutes.
Yeah.
Bernie was the first one here, but I kind of looked around, and Bernie's kind of sitting there with nothing on his face, and Lorne has nothing on his face, and I said, we all look like we've been out in the cold for the last few hours, and it was. Hey, you know what? Props to all the athletes that were out there that had to endure this tonight, because it's just not easy. There's no other way to say
Like a full-on mini snowstorm going on.
Did you?
A squall?
Yeah.
Wow.
We didn't have that at Walled Lake, but certainly being off that water doesn't make it any easier. And all right, so here we are. Enough of us complaining. The bottom line is, as Matt
and His
Mowery
Excellency Matthew Mowery.
Matt. He's got the rosy cheeks, too. A little bit of that going on with everybody today.
Yeah. So, crazy night. And I think it is, when you use the word emblematic, when you have weather like this, you tend to have results that are surprising because some teams come to play and some
Western
don't.
and I don't want to start this thing on a down note, but, that Oakland County's my beat. And Western, for the last 2 years, you just, from game in to game out, you didn't know what team you were going to get. And one game you could get a team that looks like they could compete with any team in the state, any team in the whole Midwest with the type of talent they have, and then another game or two you get the result that you got tonight.
They look like the fourth place team in the LVC.
Yeah. 43-0 night. They follow the Chemics. Credit Al Money, who was running that offense. They were very shifty in how they kind of deliver. They run a variety of offensive plays. They'll have guys coming across. They'll give it to him. He'll do the RPO. He'll pull it back and he'll throw it. Really, everything worked for Midland tonight. It was complete domination from the first snap to the end. Western just couldn't get anything going offensively at all. So you credit the Chemic defense, too. But it was really field position they were put in. They stopped them on fourth down several times, especially as they were down 20 points. They're going to go for it on fourth down. But I give them a lot of credit. First regional title since 2007, so that's big. I talked to Eric Methner after the game, and he would be willing to come on with us, so I got his phone number. I don't know if he's going to have the whole video thing going, but they're going to be on the bus for a while, so if anything, we'll get the audio going and talk to them. But again, just a dominant performance. Who would have thought Midland would beat Walled Lake Western 43-0?
Well, especially because when I went to cover the Midland Dow game,
Right.
It was kind of a play-in game for the playoffs.
Right.
So it was questionable because Dow actually had more playoff points going into that game.
Yeah.
It was questionable if the loser of that game was even going to get into the playoffs.
Right.
And now they're this far in the playoffs now. After
If you were just looking at recruiting stars, you would think it would be the lopsided victory on the other side of the coin, but that's why you play it, and that's why high school football and what you get at the high school level doesn't always translate into the recruiting world and where kids are being projected, where a kid might land, because it really, at its core, at this level, it's all about heart.
Yeah. I do want to say quickly, Extra Point is brought to you by Lawrence Technological University, the MHSAA, and Hungry Howie's. Thank you so much for tuning in, those who are with us. We appreciate you. And, again, just kind of getting our bearings here is it was brutal out there. But since we mentioned the Midland game, we could start.
But it shows what kind of heart the Chemics had coming down here, staying focused despite the late arrival, and going into Western territory and, for all intents and purposes, punking the Warriors.
I mean, yes, no doubt. They will take on Muskegon Mona Shores next week, who beat up on Portage Northern tonight, 58-28.
That's no little task either.
Yeah. So that one will be. We'll see where they. Again about the semifinals. We'll see where they play these games. They always try to find central locales. So we'll see where that ends up. Warren De La Salle beats Port Huron Northern tonight 21-3. That's no surprise. And Groves and Franklin got together, and Birmingham dropped 53 tonight in a big win over Livonia Franklin. So they end their season. So Groves De La Salle will be the semifinal in Division II, and Midland Muskegon Mona Shores at the top of the bracket. And there's no way we would have called this Final Four maybe even 7 weeks into the season, let alone at the beginning.
And you got to give so much credit to Brendan Flaherty and Groves and that team getting to where they are right now, playing for a chance to go to Ford Field with a team that was in some ways an afterthought in their own league.
Yep. Yeah.
Everyone was talking Oak Park. Harrison was a big storyline. And Groves, they lost those first 2 games of the year and played tough in both those games against West Bloomfield and Oak Park, and haven't lost since.
Yeah.
And this is a team where you've had to have guys step up, guys that weren't count on last year on offense are now having to step up on offense. Guy like Khalil Dawsey, their best player, going to Harvard, the cornerback, but had never really played offense before. This year, he's turned into an electrifying slot back, receiver / running back, return guy. He's doing it all. Damian McCurdy has turned into an all-state caliber tailback. And this is a guy that was a backup last year to Chase Ford.
Yeah.
Props to Franklin, as well. Come on, I got to get a little Livonia love in there because
they played tough at the end.
That's exactly it.
They didn't go down without a fight because they were scrapping to the last whistle
just to get in, and they had that played a lot of football the last couple of years. So I mean, scrapping just to get in, got a couple games under their belt, but at the end of the day, too much. 53 is that what it was? 53. My goodness.
Yeah. So, Sean, you stepped over to Belleville, West Bloomfield, out there on the lake. I'm sure that was very cool.
We were talking about that on the lake. There's something. Belleville had 2 touchdowns called back pretty early in the game, and it was interesting because West Bloomfield did absolutely nothing with the ball. I mean, and when I say nothing, I think it was 3 and outs. I could be wrong. Maybe they got a first down in there somewhere. But then once it got it going, they hit a field goal. And then, when the third quarter starts and they score a touchdown, Mosley caught a touchdown, honest to goodness, and shows you what I know, I thought it was over. I was like, okay, West Bloomfield's got the offense going and everything, and it was gut check time. It was gut check time. 2 short touchdown runs, a couple of big defensive stops, but the last touchdown run, I'm wearing the Spartan cap. For those of you that remember the Big Ten championship against Iowa and that last drive, that's what Belleville did. Yeah. Belleville got the ball back. It was an 81-yard drive. It was just, we're going man-to-man, and we're just going to run the ball. And they went straight down the field. And when I say straight down the field, it was methodically straight down the field. But they ended up scoring the winning points with just under 4 minutes to go. But
and they're running Jalen Hunt.
It was Jalen Hunt scored both touchdowns.
Who's the defensive end going to Iowa.
He looks like Bettis running the ball. He just bowls people over. Yeah. It's not anything.
I didn't even know he ran the ball.
They were 2 short runs. It was I think it was 4-3, maybe 4-2, whatever. But it was mano a mano in the elements. I mean, pull out every other cliche that you want, but it was one of those mano a mano games, and like I said, I can't stress this. I really thought West Bloomfield was going to run away with it once they got the offense going and they got up 10-0.
Yeah,
but hat on hat, and Belleville took care of business.
Well, again,
at home.
About 20 college recruits on the field between both teams.
Maybe more,
which is hilarious. And again, Belleville.
You might have 20. Power conference kids.
Power conference kids. Yeah.
Not counting the MAC kids.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, and we talked about this with Fordson, is that playing now in the KLAA, you're playing tougher teams. You're getting more prepared for runs. You've faced adversity. Belleville certainly faced adversity several times, including against Fordson and against Brighton. A couple times against Brighton.
I think we've talked about the last couple of years, or we talked about this year, how the last couple of years kind of set the stage for what's happening in 2018, and that's this Belleville crew. You can call them Cass Tech West or what have you, with Jermaine Coyle coming over there and kind of installing a lot of that technicians type system. But they're taking that. They're going to the next level as their program, and that was what the expectations were.
Yes.
And last year, they took that, mid-level step, undefeated in the regular season.
Yeah.
I think they lost in the district finals.
In the district finals,
and
Canton.
Right, and then this year we're up in the ante, and the ante is now winning district and regional crowns and getting a shot at the brass ring.
Yeah, so it sets up a real interesting matchup next week with Chip Valley as they beat Fortune tonight, 42-7
with authority.
Yes, and again, I'm not surprised. Chip Valley just everything rolling.
They're a
for
machine
them.
right now.
They are a machine.
They're playing with.
As any team in the state outside of Muskegon, they are the machine.
They're playing with moxie, intelligence. They have the athleticism.
Yeah.
They have the leadership.
Yeah.
All the pieces are there. The stars are aligning for them.
Yeah.
Like I've been saying, to go into Ford Field and cement a legacy as one of the top teams Macomb County has produced in quite a while.
I can almost bet with certainty that game will be at Troy Athens on Saturday. So that will be really interesting next week. And on the other side, the game you were at, Clarkston Lapeer?
No, I was at Madison Heights, Madison.
No one. Okay.
The Riverview, Gabriel Richard.
That's right.
Tracking a Mr. Football candidate.
Yes.
In Austin Brown. And you know what?
But just to get there, we'll just, before we get there, let's just say Clarkston beats Lapeer tonight. They break them 13-0. Lapeer, we were kind of just saying, is this a team that nobody's talking about that is going to, well, again, it's Clarkston.
The Clarkston repeat effort is alive and well.
The district hex that had always been the issue for Lapeer, but that Clarkston hex is still there because I think of their losses since they merged the schools, it seems like half of them are to
more
Clarkston.
Than half, I think, maybe are to Clarkston because they always meet.
Yeah, they always meet in the playoffs, and I think they've met in the regular season once.
Yeah. So you went to see Austin Brown.
I went to see Austin Brown.
They win 44-7. Not a surprise.
44-7, and Brown
Division 7
is just really impressing with his versatility this year. A kid that wasn't going to rest on his laurels, threw for 3,000 yards last year, 30 touchdowns and whatnot, went to the Final Four. Wasn't in any way, shape, or form a threat to beat you with his legs. This year, he's concentrated on it. They've kind of tailored the offense to it where they're mixing it up to the point where it's 50-50.
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming, and as a result, his passing attempts have fallen back. But he's over 1,000 yards rushing. Today, he went over 100 yards on the ground and through the air in the first half.
Right.
Sat down for most of the second half, but ended up with 197 yards rushing, 130 yards passing, scored 3 touchdowns on the ground, one touchdown hookup with Ike Pollard in the second quarter, and they were up 44-0 in the third quarter, and just really in cruise control mode. Going to try to take that next step under James Rogers and return to the I don't know if they were at Ford Field in 05 or they might have been. They were.
Yeah,
I think the first. I think 04 was the first one.
Return to
yes.
Return to the Bright Lights.
Now nobody with that
Bright
within
Lights
that program was there.
Well, that was out of nowhere in 05, and then
the
program's established itself as one of the best
in
this area quietly. Every year they're winning 10, 11, 12 games. But they haven't been back to the state championship game since 05, and this is a group that was knocking on the door last year, lost a close game in the semifinals, and like I said, with the kind of balance that they're unleashing right now, they are a lethal bunch. Defensively, I want to shout out that the linebacking core. Obviously, and rightfully so, Austin Brown gets the lion's share of the headlines. But this team is going on defense right now. They hadn't allowed a point when they gave up their touchdown in the fourth quarter. They hadn't allowed a score, let alone a touchdown, in 15 quarters. They are blowing every team out that comes in their way, and that defense is led by a trio of linebackers that I was really impressed with. Chauncey Ernst, who is a sack machine on blitzes. He had 18 sacks last year, has 17 this year, had 8 or 9 tackles. And Adam Long, their middle linebacker, had about 15 tackles today. And they're really igniting the team more so than Austin Brown.
Right. So very, very resemblant of Detroit Loyola, for those few years in Division 7, just rolling. And, it was going to see who was going to come from up north to give them a challenge in the championship. They're going to take on the winner of the Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central Cassopolis game tomorrow. That's a 1 o'clock start. Since we're there into Division 7, New Lothrop continues to roll. They beat Pewamo West
I
Valley.
almost picked them.
I know.
I don't think I did.
I think we all went Pewamo.
Yeah, I went.
Without
a hesitation, I went Pewamo, feeling that they were playing some of the best football in the state.
New Lothrop's only loss, though, was to Traverse City St. Francis,
right.
and that's not exactly a bad loss.
No. So good for them. They win 26-14, and they will take on Lake City, who beat Roscommon tonight 34-28. So it was a good game there in Division 7.
I took New Lothrop.
You did. All right, you did. All right.
And the Chemics.
Good for you. And the Chemics. Wow. All right.
I'm going to dislocate my shoulder,
gumption,
patting
my
myself
friend.
on the back.
Yeah, it does.
Picking against PW.
So, Matt Mowery, you were out at Allen Park?
I was.
Yes.
And it was as cold there as everywhere else on the
Yes,
planet.
exactly. It doesn't discriminate the cold. But you there for a Division III matchup, Martin Luther King and Allen Park, 54-15 the final. So
yeah.
I think those feelings that maybe DeQuan Finn is out of the Mr. Football race, maybe he made a statement tonight.
Not so fast.
Okay.
Yeah. He first, I believe it was second play from scrimmage, and it was a muddy field too. It was an awful, standing water on the sidelines, and from the 10-yard line in, it was just a quagmire. So you thought maybe this will slow him down a little bit. And second play from scrimmage, King fumbles, and Allen Park recovers, and you're like, maybe here we go.
Yeah.
No. Right, as soon as King got the ball back after a 3-and-out, Finn ripped off a 75-yard touchdown run. Mm-hmm. He had touchdown runs of 75, 1, 44, and 1 yards. TD passes of 25 and 75. Really where the muddy field came in as much as anything was, as long as you as a runner were not trying to make drastic cuts and we're just taking choppy steps, the defenders were really having the hard time, getting their equilibrium and coming to balance and tackling.
Arm tackling.
And there was a lot of arm tackling, a lot of diving, and people missing tackles. And so Finn ended up with 127 yards on the ground, 201 in the air, 5 total touchdowns. 6 total touchdowns. Okay. So it was
DeQuan Day
statement.
Yeah.
Well, he was. I dubbed him the front runner coming into the race.
Yeah, and he was early in the season, certainly.
Yeah, exactly.
And he didn't do anything to lose it per se.
No.
I mean, he's lived up to the billing.
Sure, it had just been starting with the Cass Tech game, and then the one the offense
real close
just wasn't
game
doing
against,
anything. Exactly. Granted, obviously the Cass Tech
and
game was not close.
And other players have popped up.
But, right, we always go on big game performance. Now, early in the season was huge. I mean, East St. Louis, big. Muskegon, even in a loss, great game. Yeah. So, he's back right there as I expected him to be. In fact, speaking of Mr. Football, we do a little fun, Sean and I, we kind of had a consensus from the guys, what we felt maybe our Final Four would be if we started today, and that was as of Wednesday, not even as of these results. Who it would be, and I'm not saying DeQuan Finn was not in there.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that DeQuan has lost the race.
No,
I'm just saying that he slipped back a little bit. Yeah. He slipped back a little bit.
Yeah,
and now he's making
absolutely
making an argument,
and it's unfortunate.
Exhibit A,
right?
Look what I'm just doing, taking my team back to the final.
The guys like Stephen Walker who now can't play any more games,
yeah.
So they can't add to their numbers. So their big game performances send to fail. Those are the ones that now, almost take miracles to get into the Final Four because we have several guys still alive in terms of their teams. So King is going to take on the winner of Farmington DeWitt. We are projecting, as we're in voting season, that we're projecting DeWitt will get through that one tomorrow against Farmington. But hey,
0 precincts reporting yet.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But hey, I don't want to, dismiss the Falcons. Here they are, and they're like, hey, we got to play this game.
They got playmakers.
Yeah.
I don't know about the depth and the size factor that's going to come up against a team like DeWitt.
And I don't know what the weather conditions are supposed to be tomorrow.
But Kendall Williams is a playmaker. Jordan Turner is a playmaker.
Hey,
it's supposed to snow in East
Lansing.
Lansing.
They were talking about a little bit more snow that side of the state west.
Okay, so they're going to be at Lansing Catholic.
Yeah, depending on going closer to the lake.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be at Grand Valley tomorrow, so I know that they're talking about a little snow that way.
They were talking about snow at the Ohio State game too. So
that's Lansing,
and that's about about 5 miles away.
All right. So we'll see. Again, those sometimes the great equalizer is Mother Nature. Zeeland East beats Parma Western tonight 50-24 on the other side of the D3 bracket. Muskegon beats Cedar Springs 34-18.
What's wrong with Muskegon? Only
34
oh my God.
points. They gave up
What's
18.
going on? What's going on here?
How could they?
That Cedar Springs defense was for real.
Well, and we know that Cedar Springs coming off a win over Mount Pleasant, which was really and 44-14. Convincingly so. They came in wanting to play, and it looks like they hung around for a bit. And Muskegon does what Muskegon does, and I'm sure Cam Martinez ran for 295 and threw 3 scores, So once we see the breakdown on that, we'll
He's a machine.
Yeah, he's an absolute big time.
Zeeland East Muskegon, huh? Next week, right?
Yes, so Zeeland East Muskegon, which will be good, and that will be very interesting. We've got some great semifinal matchups that will be coming up. Let's take a look at Division 4. Really, the only game tonight was Williamston blanking St. Clair, which I was kind of riding that St. Clair train a little bit. But it's funny when you have sometimes these weather types of games, especially when it's so cold, you will often see scores like this, like we had at my game, where Midland, blanks a team, convincingly. One team
blasted them.
Yeah, so one team just seems to be rolling, and the other just can't get anything going. And that seems to be what's
it's amazing
what's
in football how there are some teams that are more equipped to do that. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, it's real. I mean, they're just for whatever reason, it's almost like, oh, good. Look at the snow coming down.
It's a toughness factor.
Yeah.
And no matter what school you're at, no matter what town you're in, no matter if it's a rich town, poor town, black town, white town, there's an immeasurable a factor that has nothing to do with what you run in the 40, has nothing to do with how many offers you have, it has nothing to do with even how many touchdowns you threw last game. It has to do with this game under these conditions. And that's something that can't always be measured.
It can change during the game too. I hate to switch up, but when Wayne State had their run to the Division II final, their first game, people forget, we were at St. Cloud, and St. Cloud was smoking them. It was 21-6. Wow. I mean, they were going to run, and then the snow started. Game was over. I mean, they ran all over St. Cloud. Guys were making business decisions at the end of the third quarter, if you know what I mean. You're down by 10 points, and I don't need to do this right now. And they end up scoring 44 points and blowing them out and everything. So, and you see it at all levels. It's amazing how it works out.
The intangibles that like I said, every team's got one or two of them. The great teams have 10, 15 of them.
Yep. Yeah. So good on Williamson, 10-2 now on the year. They beat Flint Powers Catholic last week, Goodrich the week before that, and obviously we know the Flint area was strong this year.
Well, and they took PW to overtime in the regular season finale, and that was kind of the point at which I went, maybe the Williamston team's got something.
You probably picked Williamston.
I don't think I did. I may have.
You probably have. So, but again, they're the only game in 4. They're going to take on the winner of Chelsea, Farmington Hills, Harrison, which is tomorrow.
I'll be out there tomorrow.
Okay, cool. We'll do a little preview and a little predictive stuff at the end of the show. We'll talk about first the results from tonight, and then we will get there. So. So that's what's up in D4. We'll take a look at D5 and see tonight what took place. Internet a little slow. Let's see.
A lot of Saturday games there, too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Did we have any finals tonight?
The only final was Marine City Denby was 2 overtimes. Marine City wins 40-32 in double overtime.
Well, it's interesting. Denby had never won a regional. 2006 was their last appearance in the regional. So this was just, amazing for them to get where they are. And boy, to go to 2 overtimes, which is, of course, if you know in high school football, you go to the 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you just, keep running plays until it's over. And, good on Denby to hang in there and fight and scratch and claw. And, hey, Marine City does it again, going back to the state semifinals. Yeah. They'll take on the winner of Frankenmuth Portland, which is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So on the other side of the bracket, Reed City second on Swan Valley tomorrow, and Hudsonville Unity Christian, which again is another surprise that has been just rolling, then to get taken on Hackett tomorrow. So that will be what's going on. In that we talked a little bit about Division 7 and Division 6. Lumen Christi continuing to do what they do. They blow out Blissfield 33-0. And at the top of the bracket, on the other side, Traverse City St. Francis, who you referenced earlier, beats Kingsley 41-20.
For the second time this year. Yeah.
Right. So we got some good games tomorrow. I'm really curious to see if Flint Habity's magic is going to continue. They're undefeated. They take on a good Montrose team tomorrow. That's a 2 o'clock start. And then Montague and Schoolcraft to get together, 2 schools who are familiar with being in this position to advance further in the playoffs. And we'll see how that one turns out. So that is what's going on in Division 6. In Division 8, we had one game, and that was Harbor Beach. So I've been riding the Pirates, this playoff team. They're kind of my guys. They blank Beecher tonight, 35-0. Again, we've seen more.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I saw the Beach getting it done, but yeah. I mean, this is just what we're seeing tonight. We're seeing blowouts. We're seeing shutouts. An unprecedented amount of shutouts for regional finals. So
my game should have been a shutout.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 44-0 into the last 3-4 minutes.
Yeah. So, there you go. They're going to take on the winner of Breckenridge and Ishpeming, 2 undefeated teams that will play tomorrow.
In the UP.
Yep. And, only a couple UP teams left. So, Mendon, Holton, and Detroit Southeastern and Reading tomorrow. And so that will be what's happening. I can give you, since we have it here, I might as well pull up a couple 8-player thing. We did have one. Maurice beat Cologne 40-8.
The Magi.
Yeah. So what?
Isn't it the Magi?
The Magi?
Yeah.
The Morris Magi?
No. Cologne.
Cologne? Oh, okay. And Aubrey Sims and Pickford will play tomorrow. They're both undefeated.
And Morris is the Orioles.
In Division 1. Okay, well, that's interesting. You know that. And then Rapid River and
You'd be
Cedarville.
surprised at what he knows.
I know. He's slick.
Be scared of what happens.
Yes. Rapid River beats Cedarville in Division 2 8-player 36-30. So they will take on the Portland St. Patrick Onekama winner tomorrow. So that's what's happening in players.
Onekama. That's Tom.
So that's Tom's new home base.
Yes.
Although I doubt he will be at that game.
He was going to be at that game, but he was going to cover it if it was tonight.
All right.
I can't cover it.
So let's take a timeout. We're going to take our first break. Thanks for joining us. We'll comment to some of your comments, and we'll also we'll just bring up the Mr. Football race since they're a sponsor. And we'll talk about that. I have some news regarding the Amble Award. So that's coming up. So stick with us. We will be right back.
I want to be a dermatologist, and though a lot of universities tried to recruit me for basketball, Lawrence Tech had the science curriculum that I wanted. LTU's Southfield campus is a great place to learn, and the classes are small enough that I don't have to wait for office hours to talk to my professors. They're usually right by my side, challenging me and guiding me toward a successful future. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
Today we want to take you inside of our Sportsmanship Summit program.
For over 20 years, the MHSAA has conducted sportsmanship summits, and annually more than 1,000 student athletes from over 100 schools participate in a series of workshops during the month of November. The focus is on the line that separates good from bad sportsmanship, not just as participants, but as spectators cheering at athletic events. The MHSAA Student Advisory Council has a hand in developing the curriculum using insights gained from the annual Battle of the Fans competition. Details for the upcoming Battle of the Fans are introduced at all 4 workshops. During breakout sessions, students meet and discuss sportsmanship with local registered game officials who explain sportsmanship from their perspective and how that differs from what students experience as participants or fans, and engage in different exercises designed to help communicate the message of good sportsmanship. Schools wrap up the day-long summit by developing a sportsmanship campaign to implement locally upon their return home.
To learn more about our student leadership programs, visit our website at mhsaa.com.
Back again.
You know me.
Pepperoni Asiago. Oh, he's so cute. What's his name?
Pepperoni Asiago.
I just want to eat him up.
Flavor fanatics love us because we invented flavored crust pizza with 100% real mozzarella cheese and fresh dough made daily. Now get meal deals for any budget. Hungry?
Howie's!
Hey everybody, welcome back to Extra Point. Matt Mowery, Sean Baligian, Scott Burnstein. I'm Lorne Plant, and we're here just talking a little bit about the regional finals. So, not all the games tonight, but we know that some of you guys are checking us out on Facebook and as well as on YouTube. So I do want to say I'm just kind of, oh yeah, there it is, my boy Brian. So, yeah, that's right. We're giving the Harbor Beach their love, and my guy Brian Fuller's EAD there is listening, and they're fully excited in the thumb about the potential for Beach again. It was not too long ago they went to the finals, and that was really exciting. And, in fact, the LTU athletic director here, Scott Trudeau, is a former Harbor Beach Pirate, so I remember him going against. But yeah, thanks for the comments, you guys. Really? Oh yeah, so one guy says all but Sean picked Belleville to lose. No way, folks. Shaking my head. No way, folks. I picked West Bloomfield.
Blind squirrel.
Yeah.
Blind squirrel.
West Bloomfield went to the state finals last year.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to Belleville.
That was a toss-up.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. I mean, it wasn't like anybody thought that was going to be lopsided. Here you go. Cameron Martinez, 192 yards in the third quarter. So he with tonight's action, he passed Ladarius Jefferson's school record for offense.
I was getting
good standard.
I was getting all the numbers together for our top 10, and we're still missing a couple. So maybe somebody out there can help us. But all jokes aside, you look at those numbers, and honestly, it was like one of those things. I wrote them down, and I did double check. I was like, "Are these right?"
Video game numbers.
I'm not joking. I did that. I looked, and I went, "Oh my goodness, they are right." I mean, they're sick numbers. They really are.
Like somebody misplaced a decimal.
Yeah, right.
And I'm someone that has been pretty vocal in my displeasure with the current transfer climate, but I think this is a situation that just needed to happen. Cam Martinez, again, all due respect to Muskegon Catholic Central, they got a great program, but Cam Martinez needs to play at the level that he's playing at with Muskegon High School, and this was the right move for him. As a young man, and he's showing that bright lights are on. The big game is before us. He's going to come up. He's going to come out there and come up with a big time performance.
Yeah. So Buford Hutcherson said state champs had Belleville losing 39-13 to West Bloomfield. Do you pick scores?
No.
Oh, okay. He says, I wonder how that panned out. LMAO. Yeah, I don't remember us picking a score. I did believe that that West Bloomfield would win. And again, I'm coming off what I saw them do last week to Catholic Central. Granted, Catholic Central still had an opportunity to win at the end, but again, they looked so good, and C.J. Harrison was in command. So,
one thing that Crowell, and I know we talked about this a few weeks ago in my radio side of life, we had him on about a month ago, and it was interesting because he was really hard on his guys, and he said, I don't want these guys believing any of the headlines they're getting. Right. They're not that good yet. Right. And I was like, if he keeps that message up, these kids are going to be willing to go to war, and that's what they're doing right now.
Jermaine was a big reason that Catholic Central, that Cass Tech took that step that it's taken in the last 10 years, with them kind of going from just a good story in the PSL to a good story across the state and in some ways across the country in terms of what they can put up on the field on a year in, year out basis. That the construction of that aspect of the Cass Tech program, Thomas Wilshire's name on it, but Jermaine Crowell had a big part to do with that, and it's not shocking that he's been able to go over to Belleville and get this thing moving as fast as he has.
Well, he was quite honest last week about the fact that they haven't put a complete game together, and which is scary because they're unbeaten. But the fact that they still have some inconsistencies, they still have some lapses, they still have some times when they play kind of like a team that maybe isn't as experienced in this portion of the season. But when they do put it all together, the talent they have, that is scary.
All right, we're gonna welcome in the head coach at Midland. Eric Metner is on the line for us. I'm sure they are on a bus, a celebratory bus, back to Midland to celebrate their 43-0 defeat at Walled Lake Western. Coach, can you hear us?
He won't be able to hear us right now. He's having some issues, so we'll try to get that as soon as we can.
All right, so we'll try to get him back on the line, and then we'll talk to him.
That's such, and that's one thing that we can talk to Coach about. That's such a fine line because, of course, everybody's fired up. I mean, you win like that, you win against Walled Lake Western. But is it the old 24-hour rule? Okay, we're done. Tomorrow, we're done. We start looking ahead to next week. I mean, that's tough to do for young men this age because they know what they did tonight. I mean, to do it in that fashion, too, guys. Coach has his work cut out for him.
Well, yeah, especially when you got Muskegon Mona Shores next on the agenda. But this is where they want to be, and again, 9-3 record. They are. You've had the opportunity actually to see them a couple times, right?
Yep. No, just once.
Just once.
Yep. A very solid team. Not anything flashy, but that's kind of traditional. It kind of cracked me up a little bit because there was a guy who kept stepping in front of me when I was trying to take pictures, and I was getting a little annoyed until he turned around, and it was Gary Joswiak, who was the Midland coach for 30-odd years, including when I was in high school. And so I kind of went, oh, and all of a sudden I felt like a 16-year-old kid again because this is Josie walking in front of me. But with him still hanging around the program, and that program was a very consistent one. It until the 90s, it didn't really make long runs in the playoffs. Yeah. But they had that stretch where I think it was 32-odd years where they had winning seasons. They were always just pretty good.
Yeah.
And so now they've kind of a couple of times in the 90s they made trips to the Silver Dome and the Ford Field. Yeah. And now this is another one
when they had Andrew Maxwell under center, he was he was getting it done, and they were as good as it gets. For a stretch there in the 2000s. There's no question about it. So still don't have them.
They are going to have a tough time next week. I mean, Sincere Dent is healthy again, and we were talking about some of the big numbers. The numbers that he put up, you got to remember, in what is about the equivalent of 8.5 games. Yeah. It's absurd. I mean, he's averaging 7,000 yards a carry too. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it.
And he's doing it in a really good league too, and against really good competition, because one of the crossovers was East Kentwood to start the season, and I think that was kind of when he put himself on the map, and when Mona Shores kind of said, okay, well, this isn't we weren't really sure where Mona Shores was going to slot in at the start of the season.
I think a lot of people were putting East Kentwood as that next squad on the west side,
and they really trounced him in that first week, and then East Kentwood obviously ripped off.
They served notice.
Yeah. And Sincere Dent came out in that first game and made a statement, and he's a big bruising running back.
Yeah, I would imagine with 58 points he had a good night tonight. So we'll have to see what his numbers are once those come in. So, remember, State Champs High School Sports Show is on every Sunday at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit. We will have several games. We'll probably end up having well over a dozen games on the show this week. We've got some nice packages that some of our friends in Flint and in the west side of the state, they will be able to provide for us, including that Muskegon Mona Shores game we just asked about. So there'll be lots of good things to watch. Also, if you can't wait that long, our senior editor, producer, Jonathan Kitt's great about getting the highlights together, and he will have those posted on Twitter later tonight. So you should be able to see pretty much everything that we'll have on the show late tonight, definitely by tomorrow morning. Now, we are going to cover a couple of Saturday games. So including the Farmington, I think just the Farmington and Harrison one we'll have locally, because that literally, and we can kind of address that now, that literally will be the final game ever played.
It's the final game. The third time that we've declared it to be the final game.
But now
we know for sure it is, because now it goes neutral site.
Right, exactly. It's semifinals.
John Harrington was joking with the reporters after the Country Day win, and then actually after the Cranbrook win as well, saying, it looks like we might have another chance for another home game to celebrate the end of football at the corner of 12 Mile and Middlebelt.
I would imagine that you'll have, some people who, now that they know it's official, and that they're still alive and it's exciting, it's regionals, that they'll want to come out and just kind of soak it in, one more time. You're going to be there. I mean, think of all the games, all the big games you've seen inside that stadium over the years.
And in playoff, great playoff games. I can recall in the 2010 run to the championship, they played De La Salle there in the regionals, and they got up, I think by 2 or 3 scores, and De La Salle came back, and that was when Shane Morris, Sugar Shane, was a sophomore and kind of getting himself on the map.
Yeah, he got his offer after.
And that was a Harrison team that had future NFL players like Aaron Burbridge and Devin Funchess and Mario Jamudia. So there's a lot of history. A lot of history on that field.
Yeah, Michigan State clipboard holder Tommy Vento.
Yep. Tommy Vento, to plug Bernie's Bites.
I give him a hard time.
Plug Bernie's Bites on our
He was our Mr.
website.
Football, so I'm giving him a hard time.
And I did for my blog, I'm breaking down the greatest, ranking 1 to 10 the best offensive players Harrison's ever had. So first I did quarterbacks, then I did running backs. Now I'm going to do wide receivers, and that's been rolling out on the blog, so you can have a nice debate about who are the best to ever play those positions in the green and gold. But, I had a debate with a number of people that were associated with the program about Tommy Vento. Where does he fall in that listing? Because he only played 1 year. It was one of the all-time great one-year start. For a guy that was in his final year of high school, starting his first season of high school football, it's got to go down as one of the greatest seasons of that fits that bill. He threw for 3,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, took his team to an undefeated team in the state championship. If Tommy Vento had wanted to, he could have played football at a GLIAC school and probably at a lower level Division I program. He decided to go to Michigan State. He was a backup for 4 or 5 years, only saw the field a couple of times. But I'm of the firm belief that you can put Tommy Vento up there in the top 5 quarterbacks to ever play at Harrison. He just happened to play that one season. Coach, I've talked to some coaches, could have gone differently the season before that. There was a senior that started that year. I think that there was loyalty to that senior who had a very good season. Vince the Prince Salatino threw for 25 touchdowns that season. But Tommy Vento easily could have started that year, and he would have been a 2-year starter. Where does he land in that top 10? You can see on my blog where I put him, but I definitely put him in the conversation for top 5.
Yeah.
After you get past Mill Coleman and Drew Stanton, it really opens up. You got a lot of really good quarterbacks to choose from. I did a top 10. You can check it out.
Yeah, and I agree. And that team, because we followed it so closely, was so special. And with his brother Jake who was,
one of his top targets. He's
Yeah.
throwing to Jake Vendo. He's throwing to Aaron Burbridge.
Exactly.
He's throwing to Devin Funchess. I mean, it's got to be one of the greatest wide receiver, or one of the greatest receiving cores this area has seen in the last couple decades.
Right, and it was, I believe, that season that, in fact, I know it was, that they beat Brother Rice on that
crazy play.
Play where he fell down and the ball was still up and he picked it up and ran the other way with it.
And then Burbridge closed the game with a pick six.
And closed the game with a pick six. And that was also the season where, I think it was that Brother Rice game where it was before somebody had a picture of Ojemudia in a Nike gear or something, and then he got suspended. Remember? He had to sit out the half
of a game.
First half.
Yeah.
I think it was that playoff game.
Something regarding.
He was wearing.
I thought it was wearing something. I thought it was something regarding some All-American honor that he had taken, and somehow that he.
I don't remember.
There was some eligibility issue with him accepting the.
It was crazy. So, hey, I do want to shout out, and we just mentioned it. Looking at some of the comments on YouTube. We're also live on YouTube. STP77 Rising says DH Reading Rangers are under the radar. They beat Ottawa Lake Whiteford, last year's D8 champion, convincingly last week. Look at the results this year. Wow. And I agree. Whiteford was playing as dominant as anyone and putting up 55, 65 every game. And for Reading to do that was shocking. And now they got to take on Detroit Southeastern, which is amazing. It was 10 years ago that Fortson and Detroit Southeastern played in the regional. And it was one of those regionals that both John and I were at, and we posted what we've been doing on our State Champs Twitter page is reliving old playoff games through our archives.
Which was also the theme of my my rundown this week that you can find on the State Champs Twitter. I'm doing a lot of
that's okay. We love
self-promotion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I talk about in the wake of what we saw from Harrison last week with that crazy finish. I talked about some of the best playoff dramatic endings that I've personally witnessed in the last 25 years.
Okay, yeah, cool. That's awesome. And just the fact that in 10 years, Detroit Southeastern has gone from a Division I school to a Division 8 school is absolutely insane. Is really the only way you could do
Games
it.
at Hillsdale, too.
They're going to play at Hillsdale.
A quick aside when we look back on that 2010 Harrison team, people in history will forget the 2011 team might have been better than the 2010 team because he returned everyone besides Tommy Vento. Jake Vento moves from wide receiver to quarterback. Goes bananas. And unfortunately for them, he breaks his foot in it was either the first round or the second round of the playoffs. But that team was ranked, I could be wrong, but I think they were top 5 in the country. They were at least top 10 in the country. The 2010 team, I don't think, cracked the top 20. But that team was nationally ranked very high and would have won the program's 14th, most likely would have won the program's 14th state crown if Jake Vento doesn't break his
he was bawling when they lost the playoff game. He was bawling. And
that was a season where he just wore it all out on his sleeve and played with such passion and such just
grit.
Had the intestinal fortitude of a warrior.
Yeah, week 2 against Southfield, he got pummeled.
They were like, his teammates were picking him up and carrying him into the huddle.
I know, it's insane. Eric Stevens said, "Is there a more balanced team than Chippewa Valley?" I don't think there is. No. We've had some responses that some of these people hadn't seen Belleville. Ellis had a 99-yard TD run tonight. Interesting.
Just keeps making big plays.
Yeah, big plays.
An example of a kid that can go into a season with a certain perception on him, whether it be a recruiting perception or a perception from the experts. I don't think anyone would have told you to start the year that this is a kid that is going to play in the Big Ten and will be in the conversation. If you were going to make a first team All-State, that he would be, have a good argument to be, without question, the first team All-State player because he was a guy that, was probably looked at as the third or fourth best player in that team coming into this year. He was going to Central Michigan, and without question, he's proven that he's a primetime playmaker. He's going to be playing the Big Ten next year at Indiana, and he's having one of the best seasons of any wide receiver in the entire state.
Well, and before he flipped, I mean, we talked early on in the season about how many skill position players Central had committed to them. Can you imagine DeQuan Finn throwing to David Ellis and handing the ball off to Lou Nichols next year?
I mean, David Ellis kind of came out of nowhere at the end of last year. He wasn't a kid that people were talking about when he was a sophomore, even at the start of his junior year. People started to get hip to him at the end of his junior year, had a strong off season where he picked up a couple MAC offers. But, you know, hats off to David to come in and just show what he was all about his senior year, and it's some of the fuel that's igniting that Chippewa Valley ship.
Yeah, you think about, like, who are the big receivers right now, the big playmakers that are left. How did Julian Barnett look tonight?
You know what? It wasn't that type of game. It just wasn't that type of game. It was, as I said,
sophomore quarterback too. So he's trying to figure it out.
You had a situation today where Belleville did some things. As I said, they scored 2 long touchdowns. Both were called back. And West Bloomfield hadn't done anything. So it kind of turned into the element type of game. You know what I mean? Especially at the end. I mean, I'm convinced, I'm not 100% sure, but how about 99% sure that their last drive was all runs? It was just all runs. We're going down the field, and we're going to get it done. Quick thought on Chip Valley. How many times have we sat here, whether it be doing our preview or doing our postscript, so to speak, and this will be a good challenge for Chip Valley? One of us, all of us, said something that facsimile. They are passing every test. They're blowing out every test. I mean, flying colors, it's disrespectful to say flying colors. I mean, every test that they've had, they are just blowing it away. So I concur with what he's saying. Boy, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more balanced team.
And if you think about big-time receivers still left in the game, you know, another guy who doesn't get enough credit, but he makes big plays, Josh DeBerry.
Who,
you know,
because
right now,
I think when people think of Josh DeBerry, they think cornerback.
Right, exactly.
But this year, he's like I was talking about Khalil Dawsey at Groves. This year, DeBerry's moved over to the other side of the ball and has become a huge part of their passing game.
I've seen him do a little bit of everything, too. You know, I mean, they're handing him the ball on jets and everything, and he's versatile, and you know that. I mean, that's a situation right now. I mean, we've been pretty blessed this year to see some guys used in ways that maybe we didn't expect them to. Sincere Dent, he's got a blocked field goal. That big giant man has a blocked field goal. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool. You know? That's exactly it.
So
I think the receiver that everyone was talking about in the senior class was Trey Mosley, and they should have been. He's an unbelievable talent, and he had a big touchdown. I think he's going to have a Cody White-like impact when he hits East Lansing, because I think they're similar type players. But no one was talking about David Ellis.
Right. No, exactly. Derek Harmon asked, what are your thoughts on the quarterback for Madison? We talked about at length Austin Brown and how great he is. And
he's just, this year, he's
you brought up the point, and what he's done this year with his legs, that's next level
You just
stuff.
love when you see kids that are wanting to work and always improve and don't just get fat and sassy reading the headlines. Because this is a kid that's been getting headlines since he was in 8th grade.
I'll give a shout-out to my boy Mark Edwards. Mark and I went to Specs together years and years ago. He's now working in the Walled Lakes kind of communications department and handles the website and everything for them. So I told him I'd give him a shout on the cast.
And
he
also
helped me out. Gave me those hand warmers, which literally
those are lifesavers.
Saved my life.
And for Austin, part of that expanding his skill set was getting in the weight room and dedicating himself to building his frame, because he's always been kind of a slighter built guy, and he's got a little more chiseled, and now their running game is going through him just as much as their passing game is going through him. So he's pushing the needle.
Real quick, what we'll do is I'll give you quickly. We'll recap all the scores here real quick. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, because I mentioned it, we're going to talk a little bit about the Mr. Football Award and the Anvil news that I have, and then we'll talk about some games for tomorrow, and then we'll wrap it up. So quickly, in Division I, Clarkston beats Lapeer 13-0. They will take on the winner of Rockford-Saline tomorrow.
Yep, and that stat that I was referring to earlier, of the 10 losses in Lapeer's history, 5 are to Clarkston.
Yeah, there you go. Belleville beats West Bloomfield tonight, 13-10 at home. They will take on Chippewa Valley, who beat a resurgent Fordson team, but they won convincingly 42-7. And now it's kind of interesting because when you had an Elements game, I figured like, ooh, that's kind of playing right into where Fordson wants to be. They want to play a ground pound, kind of Elements game, but
got blown off the ball.
Yeah, but. Yeah, Chip Valley's just, they just are who they are right now.
They're a breakaway freight train right now.
Yeah.
And I really think the only team that can beat Chippewa Valley could be Chippewa Valley.
Yeah. Although, if it does end up Chippewa Valley and Clarkson, that could be really, really, really something for Fort Field. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. In Division II, Muskegon Mona Shores beats Portage Northern 58-28. Midland blanks Walled Lake Western 43-0. It's Warren De La Salle over Port Huron Northern 21-3, and Birmingham Groves all over Livonia Franklin 53-29. Muskegon beats Cedar Springs tonight 34-18. And again, has us asking what's wrong with Muskegon. Zeeland East over Parma Western 50-24. And the other game in Division III, Martin Luther King all over Allen Park 54-15. So the King Crusaders back, if you had any doubt that they weren't. There was one game tonight played in Division IV, and that was Williamson beating St. Clair 28-0. In Division V, most of the games will be tomorrow, but Marine City and Denby went to double overtime. Marine City, the Mariners, hang on 40-32 to win that one. And in Division VI, Traverse City St. Francis beats Kingsley 41-20. They will advance, as Jackson Lumen Christie will as well. They blank Blissfield 33-0. Lake City over Roscommon in Division VII, 34-28. New Lothrop beats Peywamo Westphalia, 26-14 in a battle of two giants there in D7. And Madison Height Madison has no problem against Riverview Gabriel Richard, 44-7 the final score in that one. In Division VIII, Harbor Beach beats Flint Beecher tonight, 35-0. So they are moving on. All the other games tomorrow in 8-player Division I. There was one game played tonight. It's pronounced Maurice, right? Or Morris? Morris, okay. 40-8 over Cologne. It's definitely not Colon, I know that. They will move on. And in 8-player Division II, Rapid River beat Cedarville 36-30, so they're moving on. The other two games will be tomorrow night. They're in the semifinals in 8-player, so they will have their state championship, which is at the Superior Dome next week. Uperdome. Well, yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're going to take a timeout, guys. We are going to come back, and again, we'll talk about some games tomorrow. We will also talk about our two contests that we have going, so stick with this. Extra Point Live. We'll be right back.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lorne Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lorne Tech. Possible is everything.
Today we'd like to talk about the requirements that varsity coaches have to help guide your children's teams. Head coaches of varsity high school teams in Michigan have up to 3 requirements they must fulfill to be able to coach in the MHSAA postseason tournament in any sport. First, a head coach of a varsity sport must have a valid CPR certification. Second, head varsity coaches, as well as all of their assistant and sub-varsity coaches, are required to complete a rules meeting annually for their sport, which contains a health and safety component covering concussions, emergency readiness, and heat and hydration issues. Third, each individual hired for the first time as a high school varsity head coach at a member school must have completed at least one level of the MHSAA's Coaches Advancement Program. These steps help make high school sports, educational athletics, as safe as possible for the young people participating in our programs. You can learn more about coaches education in health and safety issues in school sports by visiting the MHSAA website.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's, Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
Hungry Howie's makes it easy. It's just a little mini pizza box, and we make lots of money, lots of dough.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the final half hour of the State Champs Extra Point Live podcast. We really have had fun doing this over the past 3 weeks. We will not do it next week. We'll go back to a traditional podcast because all the games are on Saturday. So, and unless these guys want to come in here on Saturday night, that's up to you. So, you
won't be here.
I won't be here. Yes, I can tell you that right now. Yeah, because I can record at home. So that's what he's saying.
No, you'll be in Indiana, right?
I'm not going to Indiana.
Okay.
No, I'm
not
going.
I thought you were going.
Nope, I'm here. So anyway, so I do not believe we're going to do that. So, but that's okay. We'll still have a traditional podcast. It'll be a predictive podcast, and we'll talk about what's happening. So I do want to mention a couple of things. Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race still happening. The voting will continue through Wednesday, a week from Wednesday. So Wednesday at noon, which is the 21st, is when we will end the voting. And then we will quickly choose our Final Four, and we'll debut that on the State Champs show that will air that Sunday at 9 a.m. That is our Ford Field show. The first, the state finals are going on. So at our state finals show, we always do the Final Four, and then just a few days later after that, we choose our champion. So I will say this.
It's like when we elect a pope. We all get in the same room.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we talk about it, and then we put the smoke.
Yeah, we actually put it on the internet one time. Our deliberations. We did it live. So I will say this. That we are trying, and I don't know if it's going to happen, we're trying to get Darius Slay to be at our announcement
giveaway.
Because he is the spokesman for Hungry Howie's.
It's not like we're giving away turkey.
No, there's no giveaway.
I know.
But again, it's he is a professional athlete that is compensated for his time to have to go out, and we've just got to think if we can find some sort of number that he will be willing to do. Well, whatever. It's not even sometimes up to him, so I don't want to put it out there like he's some money grubber. It's not.
We know that he loves high school football.
We do.
He goes on Twitter every Friday night and says, "Where should I go?"
Yeah,
right.
So
great guy.
We'll
really
see. So we'll see if we can make that happen. That'd be cool. Right now, Jaron Mangum is leading the vote. Again, regardless of the fact that Cash Tech is out, if he wins the online vote, he is in our Final Four, and there's nothing you could say about that. He's got 17,103 votes as of this minute. Austin Brown is in second with 12,280, and Durham McKinney behind him from River Rouge at 9,551, and then DeQuan Finn at 7,622. So do appreciate all the voting out there. We did a Final Four mock thing, and we basically came down and we, even though not everybody selected everybody together, it was just because a couple of us had picked Stephen Walker. So Steve Walker made our Final Four along with Austin Brown, Cameron Martinez, and Jaron Mangum, because he's the voting champ. So that's where we're kind of at right now.
I'm going to say the same thing that you and I talked about on TV. Like, honest to goodness, if you are involved in recruiting in any way, shape, or form in college, how in God's green earth have you not given Stephen Walker a look? I mean, what am I missing? Bernie, this is your wheel.
Yeah.
Is it because he's 5'9"? Is that it?
It's because of his size. And he's a safety on the other side of the ball, and they don't like small safeties.
Yeah.
And this year is his first year really as the primary ball carrier for Canton. So we didn't get a lot of looks before this season at what he can do as a
Although he
running
did
back.
had a phenomenal playoffs last year.
He ran the ball last year, but
in the playoffs he was outstanding.
I don't think he was their number one.
He was running for hundreds and hundreds of yards.
Okay, I could be wrong. I didn't think he was their.
He may not have been. I'm saying he may have
once
the playoffs hit.
But
Became their featured back.
There are multiple guys in the GLIAC that are 5'8", 5'9", that are just doing work.
Right. And I mean, it took Tariq Reed very late in the game to get his first offer, and he's going to Grand Valley, I think.
Yeah.
And he was a 2,500 yard guy and a Mr. Football finalist a couple years ago out of Davison.
Yep, that's right. That's right. So
he didn't get.
I have a feeling that it'll come. Yeah, Sean's going to go. Sean's got highlights to do, so he's going to go do that, and so we can.
And kids like that,
things done.
I'm confident that someone like Steve Walker, before we hit signing day, he's going to find a place. He'll find a place at the table.
Yeah, it just may not be, high-end Division I or even Division I. It may be D2. I mean, that may be where he fits. Yeah, or NAIA.
Yeah.
So much of the recruiting game that people don't really understand. It's the traction you get early on, and unfortunately, that puts a lot of kids behind the eight ball that don't get noticed until their senior year. As a result, you have a lot of slots that are already filled. Guys that may be committed as a sophomore or junior, and then you have to wait to see how things shake out come around signing day, where you have guys that are leaving mid-major offers going to major programs, or leaving D2 offers going to Division I, and then spots open up and guys slot in. I remember out of Romeo, their state championship team, Brad Tanner.
Yeah.
He didn't have, I don't think any offers. And then playoffs hit. I think he got a couple D2 offers. By the time his team's winning the state title, he's going to Western Michigan on a scholarship.
When Brian Kelly made a killing at Grand Valley when he was there, getting that kind of player, the kid who didn't, have that early love and ended up blowing up as a senior, and have, just having them kind of slide in and have a big chip on their shoulder when they get there.
It's actually unfair in both regards. It's unfair. I mean, we can do a whole podcast on the ethics of recruiting, but it's unfair to the kid that gets the offer when he's 15 or 16 to the big level program that maybe he's not really should be headed for, and sometimes coaches that have made those offers realize it and eventually push you off the roster, and it's just as unfair to the kids that aren't getting the looks until the end of their senior year.
So let's move on to the Anvil. It's okay, because this all ties together, what you're talking about right now. We are partnering up with Legacy, which, if you know, the facility they've got out there in Brighton is massive, and it's crazy. And they are having a college recruiting showcase that's going to take place on Thursday, December 6th.
Justin Cesante does a great job, and Drew Callahan, I believe, is another one of the former Detroit Rocker soccer player, is one of the owners there, and Justin runs it. And they've really built that thing into something special.
And Mike Martin's involved, who was the former Michigan
Cesante and Martin both come from the Catholic Central program.
That's right. They're going to have over 100 college football coaches from D2, D3, NAIA, and JUCO programs. It's going to have a college coaches meet and greet, educational and recruiting seminars, and on-field evaluations. So if you are somebody who wants to play at the next level and you feel for whatever it is, you haven't just received any looks, then this is an opportunity for you to get your looks. You could sign up. It's $65 for tuition. Registration deadline's December 4th. You go to legacyfootballorg.com to reserve a spot. And they're also going to have a live football game that's going to take place on Fox Sports Detroit.
It's
the day after the football finals.
And it's all guys that are uncommitted.
All kids that are uncommitted. So they get an opportunity to play against each other, and coaches will be able to watch
when
that.
Justin told me
there
that,
will be offers coming from that.
I had I had coffee with Justin over the summer just to kind of brainstorm some ideas and talk about some things related to what he's doing out there at Legacy, and he told me about that. I said, that's great. They do that. They do that at basketball a lot,
Right.
but I haven't seen it at football.
Yeah.
Where they get all the guys that haven't committed to schools yet, get them on a basketball court, and get the scouts all to come out and look at them. But it's a great idea to transition it to the football landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an award called the Anvil Award, the State Champs Anvil Award, that we decided to, reward a lineman or linebacker in the state with an award similar to Mr. Football, because we felt that the scales were just tilted too heavily towards offensive players who have stats, and it was just going to be impossible for us to really reward one of these players unless it was just, one of those things. It was just crazy stats. So we have this award. Lance Dixon is currently leading the vote with 6,328. Ruke Orhohoro from River Rouge is in second in the vote. So that's pretty much kind of as far as the vote. The voting hasn't been as robust as Mr. Football, but we expected that. The bottom line is,
I think that as the years go on and people know about it more, I think this is there's a learning curve for the voting public.
No question about it. But we have some fantastic candidates that are in our top 10.
To our own credit, Mr. Football has become just kind of almost to the level of Mr. Basketball.
Yeah. Oh,
and Mr. Football's only been around for how many years?
11.
Right.
This will be the 11th year.
And Mr. Football's been around since the
Mr.
1981.
So long time. Justin Rogers out of Oak Park, Logan Brown from East Kentwood, Devontae Dobbs out of Belleville, Anthony Bradford from Muskegon, Lance Dixon from West Bloomfield, Carson Barnhart from Paha, Michael Fletcher from Flint, Carmen Ainsworth, Ruka Orhohoro from River Rouge, Adam Berghorst from Zeeland East, and Marcel Lewis from Chippewa Valley are our top 10. It is a very, very talented top 10, and determining a Final Four, that one's going to be a challenge as well. But I do want to say this, as part of our cooperation with the Legacy people, they have told me that Mike Martin and myself, we are going to present the Anvil Award live on television on Fox Sports Detroit, which is going to be, again, the day after the conclusion of the Saturday football finals at Ford Field. So we will be choosing our Anvil Award winner, and now we just got to get them to come to Ford Field. Or not Ford Field. Ford Field, right? They're playing at Ford Field, right? Or are they playing at Legacy? I'm sorry.
I thought they're playing at Legacy.
I think they're playing at Legacy. I'm sorry. Not at Ford Field. Legacy is the game. It's the day after the championships,
Field,
but it's going to be a Legacy, which makes sense. It's Legacy's thing. So we've got to get him to come out when we choose our guy. But I think it will be something great because it will be live on TV and we can talk to him, and it'll be a really cool thing. So we appreciate Legacy for extending that olive branch, and if we can get Darius Slay to do Mr. Football, we are 2 for 2 and really hitting everything and giving the props that these awards deserve. So let's do this, gentlemen. We've got about 13 minutes left in the program. Why don't we talk about some of the games tomorrow and what our expectations are for that. Again, we do not know at this time what temperatures are going to swing and flip, and there's probably going to be snow in areas. So, of course, you have to kind of take that into account, but also just think about the teams. We'll start in D1, just one game tomorrow, Rockford at Saline. Yep.
How many
You're
times
gonna be
this
at that
season when we were talking about Rockford, usually on the other side from someone else we were talking about,
strange that
we wrote them off as dead.
I'm picking Rockford in an upset. It's weird.
You
Rockford's like a Cinderella.
Yep.
It seems like it's an oxymoron.
I know.
Saline is one of those teams that just buzzed under the radar too because
they lost their quarterback.
They lost their quarterback in a it was Chip Valley at Saline with a come-from-behind victory in the fourth quarter after Saline lost their quarterback, and they muddled around a little bit for a couple of weeks until he came back, but they haven't lost since, and they haven't missed a beat since.
And to beat East Kentwood 42-7 last week.
They crushed East Kentwood.
That's impressive.
That's a statement.
That's a statement, and this one will be in their house. 1 o'clock start. It's a
will be
long
there.
trip. Yep, you're going to be there. It's a long trip for the Rams.
Yes.
Gosh, if I would,
that was a weird district.
I would have stayed
and
over the night. I would have stayed overnight tonight to play tomorrow. Maybe they did, hey, Sean Baligian back in the house. Yeah, Sean. Good. So we're just kind of previewing some of the games now, and Division II, they played them all. So they're all set. The semifinals next week will be Midland and at Muskegon Mona Shores. And we'll see. When I say at, I mean there will be place that they will play, like Alma College or something along those lines.
Ferris,
Ferris. Yeah, we'll see. And then Warren, De La Salle, and Groves will be getting together. And again, we're going to do another podcast that will predict all the semifinals after that.
I
but
think that's
D2 is set.
Park for the second year. I think that's in Hazel. That one's going to be in Hazel Park.
Okay, we'll know soon enough. In Division 3, there is one game tomorrow, and that is Farmington at DeWitt. We kind of talked a little bit about it. It's going to be at Lansing Catholic. But again, DeWitt, one of those teams, 11-0 on the year. They just got by East Lansing last week, 9-7. East Lansing, a good team. But DeWitt, again, one of those teams. Division 3, for as much as, we kind of said this is Muskegon and Roll, there's some really good teams left. I mean, Zeeland East, if DeWitt does what we think they will do tomorrow, and with King doing what they did, and Muskegon, what a stacked Final Four you have in terms of competition.
And especially because we were talking about that as the season started to get toward the end, about where teams were going to slot in and what teams were going to drop. And when King dropped from 2 to 3, that kind of left a little bit of a vacuum in 2, aside from Mona Shores being kind of the favorite.
Yeah.
And then in 3, you're right. 3 is stacked.
Yeah. And all these teams playing so well right now.
I can't help but think, by the way, to your point, Matt, I mean, remember after that first classic between King and Muskegon, there was so much talk. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another crack if this, that, or the other thing happens. But a lot of work to get there first. But I think they would really like that. Yeah. I think they'd really like that.
Absolutely. Division 4 has several games tomorrow, including the first one, which is Escanaba. Again, one of the few. There were only 2 UP teams left in 11 player, and they're one, and they're going to Grand Rapids Catholic Central, and that is a noon start tomorrow. GRCC doing what they do, really establishing themselves, kind of like where West Catholic was for so many years, just a dominant.
Their only loss at Saline in a game that they had a chance in the fourth quarter.
Week 1
to beat. Week 2.
Week 2. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, so again, I foresee the Cougars continuing to roll. Their stadium's beautiful too. If you ever get a chance to see this new stadium, it's so nice, so nice. Holland Christian and Edwardsburg getting together, so that's a night game. Good Lord, you talk about it's going to be freezing at Edwardsburg, and they probably just love this weather anyway. The Eddies, again, another program that continues to just pound, and they beat Paw Paw last week 49-10. So we're anticipating an Edwardsburg Grand Rapids Catholic Central semifinal, which would be a fantastic game, no question about it. Williamson beat St. Clair tonight, so they're moving on. They will take on the winner of Chelsea Farmington Hills Harrison, which is tomorrow at 1 o'clock at Farmington Hills Harrison. And I don't think we've actually given enough credit to Chelsea.
They were 5-4.
Right. Yeah.
They came in. They surprised and upset Grozeal.
Yeah, beat Milan.
And are playing really good football.
Yeah.
I mean, on the other side of it, I think if you're Harrison, the playoff bracket gods have been kind to them and trying to create this storybook ending, because this is the kind of draw that they can handle. I don't know if they would have played some other teams in this first 3 games. Or the first 2 games, if they'd be standing right now. They had to sneak by Country Day and Cranbrook, which were 2 games that I kind of expected them to win by bigger margins. But now they're playing a team that's a Cinderella kind of in a certain way, in the fact that they were a 5-4 group. You don't expect much from 5-4 teams in the playoffs. But they're on their home field. Harrison's playing at home. A lot of emotion behind them.
Yeah.
And like I said last week, as we were doing this podcast, in my opinion, they're playing with house money right now.
Yeah.
This is a Harrison team that is playing over their heads.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This is an 8-3 team that isn't your typical 8-3 Harrison squad, and that's a tribute to the coaching job and the playmakers that are stepping up, and the senior leaders that are making sure that everyone's on their P's and Q's for this last dance, if you will, for the Farmington Hills Harrison football dynasty.
Yeah, finding a way. Again, just the fact they've gotten into the regionals in their final season is a testament, to the program. And we'll see if they can knock off the Bulldogs tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see. In Division 5, we've got several games tomorrow. Just one play tonight, and that was Marine City and double OT over Detroit Denby tonight. So Reed City and Saginaw Swan Valley getting together. Both teams 11-0. This is going to be a good one. Both teams, 1 o'clock game. This was both teams handily won last week. Saginaw Swan Valley, a team that we haven't really pontificated about, but
Swan Valley has cruised all season long. Even when they played teams that have been, they beat Frankenmuth, which is also still alive and plays tomorrow at Portland. It's a team that seemingly has not been challenged this year. Really, it's been, and that's not a bad thing. That's that they've been beating people so badly. This is a team that made it all the way to the finals last year and kind of came back this year with maybe we missed an opportunity last year, we're not going to do that again attitude.
And speaking of unchallenged, Reed City has been unchallenged this year as well.
Oh my
God. Both teams have just been crushing their opponents.
Is that the closest game's 21 points against Montague, right?
Yep.
Is that wow?
Yeah, 58-22 here.
And
but
Montague's still alive.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a battle of the big boys. For that one. So they will take on the winner of the Hudsonville Unity Christian Kalamazoo Hackett game. Hackett, another team that's undefeated. They're going to play at Vicksburg, and that's a 3 o'clock start tomorrow. Unity Christian, a great story as well. They continue to win. They beat Muskegon Oak Ridge last week in a shootout. It was Hackett beating Hopkins again, another very high scoring game. So we'll see how that one plays out in the end. Frankenmuth and Portland will get together. Portland is undefeated this season. I picked Frankenmuth in this one just because I feel they're playing as well as anybody right now, and it's all about the hot hand, and they've been there before. I picked Lansing Catholic to beat Portland, and I felt they were playing as good as anyone. So in
Portland
that division,
just keeps their business.
They just keep going.
Yeah, they're keeping it going. So the winner of that one will take on Marine City in the semifinals. So that's some action tomorrow. Another game tomorrow in Division 6. We had 2. Montague at Schoolcraft, 2 9-2 squads getting together, and Montrose at Flint Hamady. Flint Hamady is unbeaten this season. They're coming off a win over E-Course where they put up 47 points last week. It's very interesting, if things turn out the way they have today, we are going to see more of these kind of 33-0 wins that probably shouldn't be that way, but one team shows up, they dominate in the cold, and another team just can't get it together, and they just, for whatever reason, can't get it warm. So we'll see how that one plays out. It'll be very interesting. Yeah, Montague's still alive, and Montague, another team with
few unbeaten teams in that little bracket as well. I mean, you're talking about 3 teams that haven't lost yet that could potentially be moving on next week.
And another unbeaten team, Cassopolis, in Division 7, will take on Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central tomorrow. That is a 1 o'clock start at Cassopolis. You win that one, you get Madison Heights Madison in the semifinals. But again, would playing New Lothrop be that any easier? No. So you will have an unbeaten Lake City team still alive who does get draw New Lothrop for next week. But we'll see what Cassopolis can do if they can defeat Monroe St. Mary Catholic Central tomorrow. We will find out. I do not think so. I do think so. I think Cassopolis will take care of business. In Division,
they've been trucking people.
Yeah. They've been. We got two undefeateds going in D8. Breckenridge at Ishpeming. That's a Saturday. It's a 1 o'clock start tomorrow. Ishpeming, of course, with a fantastic track record, and both teams put up high 30 scores last week.
As much as Breckenridge was almost kind of one of the favorites in D8, I almost picked against them just because of the track record of troll teams going across the bridge to play in the UP. It's not a good track record ever.
Troll teams.
Yeah, that's
the old term.
I was speaking to my Uper friends there.
The bus legs for the trolls. It's real. It's real.
Yeah, no doubt. Ishpeming has certainly ended many seasons over the last few years, and they do it in a lot of times just humiliating fashion. Like they just
Crystal
run
Falls
the ball
Forest
right
Park used to do that incessantly. It was always somebody who was ranked 19 spots higher than them, and they would just crush them in the Uperdome.
2 7-4 teams getting together tomorrow in D8. Menden is at Holton. I don't know if we've talked about Menden or Holton this year at all, and here they are in the regionals. So good on that. And we'll have Detroit Southeastern and Reading getting together. That one at Hillsdale. That's a 1 o'clock start tomorrow. Southeastern, good on them that they continue to play. Again, no resources, and these kids are doing it. I think they've got a full plate to see if they can beat Reading, but what Reading did to Whiteford last week is, I would say, makes them the favorite, Nate, although Harbor Beach is going to say, bring it, because they won today 35-0 over Flint Beecher. So we'll see what happens in that, and there's 8-player going on too. But we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Remember, State Champs Sunday, 9 a.m. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube page. We'll have all the highlights up from this regional weekend, and we'll talk to you next week somewhere around Wednesday or Thursday for another edition of Extra Point. We'll see you then.